Welcome to the WTR Small Cap Spotlight podcast. I'm your host, Tim Gerdeman, Vice Chair and Co-founder and Chief Marketing Officer of Water Tower Research. In today's podcast episode, we welcome back Dr. Amit Kumar, Chairman and CEO of Anixa Biosciences, NASDAQ ticker symbol ANIX. Also joining is my Water Tower Research Healthcare Equity Research colleague, Robert Sassoon. Anixa is a clinical stage biotech company which develops a novel type of CAR T cell therapy for the treatment of terminally ill ovarian cancer patients. Anixa's clinical portfolio includes a vaccine for the treatment and prevention of breast cancer. The company also runs additional preclinical cancer vaccine programs. So let me first welcome our guests, Amit and Robert, to today's podcast. Good morning, gents.
Good morning, Tim. Thank you for having me.
Good morning, Tim, and good morning, Amit.
So, Amit, to kick things off, I understand that you have referred to 2026 as a pivotal year for Anixa. Can you please briefly outline to us why that is the case?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Tim. Well, first of all, we've completed the phase one study of our breast cancer vaccine, 35 women, exceptional data, exceptional results. And we're planning to we're planning the phase two study now. And typically, valuations for biotech companies dramatically increase when phase two begins. So we're looking forward to that, not only from a valuation standpoint, but also from a scientific standpoint to see how well this vaccine works. Secondly, we have exceptional overall survival data for terminally ill cancer patient, ovarian cancer patients in our second clinical trial, which is still in the early stages. We've only treated 12 patients so far, but 9 of those 12 have outlived their expected overall survival date by dramatically. And so we're very excited about this because this is a CAR T against a solid tumor that is showing data that we believe is better than any data that's been produced for any other CAR T therapy for solid tumors. So with that data in both of these trials, we believe that now is a good time to really, really engage with pharmaceutical companies for partnerships that are a component of our business strategy to eventually complete the clinical trials and then commercialize these products. So 2026 is a year where all of those things are going to happen, and we're very excited about it.
Those data points certainly sound very encouraging, so best of wishes on how those all unfold. And with that, I'll turn it over to Robert.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. So, Amit, with the phase one breast cancer vaccine trial now completed, having met all primary endpoints and demonstrated really strong immune responses, I think in 74% of participants. So, what are your plans now for FDA consultations, phase two start, manufacturing scale up, and additional US sites beyond the Cleveland Clinic in 2026?
Well, you just summarized basically all of the key points that we're engaging in for the breast cancer vaccine and preparing for phase two. We filed a CSR, a clinical study report, a preliminary CSR to the FDA, and we're augmenting that to supply a more comprehensive clinical study report that summarizes all of the data in great detail to the FDA. Successive to that, we'll request a meeting to have discussions about the design of the clinical trial, appropriate number of patients to power the trial. And then, in parallel, we're in the process of manufacturing material for the phase two. We had material for the phase one, which was manufactured under certain rigorous conditions, but now we have even more rigor to meet to produce the phase two and more material as well for phase two, especially since in the phase two, as you noted, we'll be doing the trial at multiple sites besides the Cleveland Clinic. Cleveland Clinic will certainly be our anchor site, but we will have additional sites throughout the United States, primarily, probably 15 or so, plus or minus. And as we bring on those sites, we'll be announcing them. And in addition, we have other things that we're working on in parallel, including seeking additional non-dilutive funding. As you may know, the phase 1 trial was fully funded by a grant from the U.S. Department of Defense, or I should say Department of War now, that funded it, provided that grant to the Cleveland Clinic to complete the phase 1 study. And now we and Cleveland Clinic have applied for additional capital to fund additional work on this vaccine. And we anticipate that we'll receive some funding. We're not sure exactly how much because at the current time the government is involved in a number of different things that everyone knows about. But we anticipate that we will, because this is potentially a game-changing product, not only for patients that are dealing with breast cancer, but also to prevent breast cancer and possibly have a vaccine that could eliminate majority of breast cancers before they even start. So we're excited about all of these activities. It's a fair amount of work, but eventually we'll get all of these things done and then we'll commence the clinical trial.
And you still have a timeline of the end of this year for the clinical trial?
We're targeting that timeline, but a number of things are dependent. We
Got
might be able to move faster, or we may take a little longer, depending on things like the FDA meetings, other aspects. But
Yeah.
we're looking forward to trying to begin this trial as soon as we possibly can.
Ah, got it. So turning to your CAR T Lira Cel program, where the phase 1 study remains ongoing, the anecdotal survival data to date has been pretty striking, particularly given that you're dealing with terminally ill patient population. Now that you've received approval to escalate to higher doses, could you update us on the current status of that program, your plans for advancing the phase 1 study, and when you might expect the next update?
Yeah, so that trial, as many people know, like all trials, is a dose escalation trial. So we begin at a modest dose and then increase the dose as we prove that the previous dose is safe for patients. And so far, we have completed 4 dose cohorts, and we are now at the beginning of the fifth dosage cohort, which is dramatically higher dosage than the first few patients. Now, as I noted, in the 4 dose cohorts, we've treated 12 patients so far, and 9 of them, 3/4 of them, have outlived dramatically their overall survival expectation. So that's fantastic for metastatic, late-stage, terminally ill patients that are not responding to any drugs. We're extending the lives of 9 of these patients. That being said, we've not cured anyone. We have knocked out portions of their tumor, as shown by necrosis that we see in the tumor. Necrosis is cell death, as you know, in the tumor. But we believe that as we go to higher dosages, we're going to be able to knock out larger numbers of lesions, or perhaps completely curatively treat the patient, which is exactly what we would like to see. And we'll continue updating people on a patient-by-patient basis. So we'll be updating the market on a rolling basis on this trial. We'll certainly be monitoring overall survival for all of the patients that are still alive in this trial. And one other thing that we're going to be doing in this next cohort is a process called lymphodepletion, which is something that has been used in the hematological CAR T therapies that are approved on the market, but we have not yet done that here in our CAR T. And we'll, of course, be monitoring biomarker studies, looking at scans, looking at markers like CEA, which is an indication of how your ovarian cancer is doing. That being said, the biomarkers are valuable, but really what's more important is overall survival. It doesn't matter what the biomarkers are doing if the patient is not surviving. So our goal is overall survival, and that's what we'll be reporting. And I encourage people to go to our website and keep track of all of the things that we're doing here, because this is going to be incredibly exciting to move forward with higher dosages as well as lymphodepletion.
And that website is www.anixa.com. So
That's
let's take that a little further. You talked about these very impressive survival data. So can you talk a little bit more about the early survival data for the CAR T
yeah, yeah.
and dose escalation plan, and then also talk about the dose escalation plan, which was recently improved?
Yeah. So the median survival for these patients is
Mhm.
roughly 12 weeks, 3 months plus or minus. Obviously, that's a very, difficult thing to predict for individual patients. So, if median survival is 12 weeks, then technically roughly half the patients will pass away before 12 weeks and half the patients will go longer than 12 weeks, but not a dramatic amount longer. In our case, we've had 3 patients of the 12 pass away within the 3 of the 12 patients that we've treated pass away within the first 12 weeks, but 9 have survived dramatically longer, including 1 patient that survived for 28 months, dramatically longer than the 12 weeks. So that's very exciting. Um, now, this is spectacular actually for CAR T therapy, and frankly for any kind of cancer therapy for terminally ill patients. If you look at the clinical trial results for many other cancer therapies that are treating metastatic late stage, essentially terminally ill patients with no other options, even 30% response is spectacular. And we're at least in these early stages showing almost a 75, basically a 75% response. Now, as we go forward, we're going to be increasing the dose. We've recently received the approval to go to dramatically higher dosages. In fact, our highest dose that we've received approval for is higher than the highest dose that has been used in any other CAR T product that's been approved, which are the hematological products. So we're excited about getting up there, and the reason we've got that approval is because the safety profile of this CAR T therapy is exceptional. Part of the reason, one component of the reason is that we are delivering directly into the peritoneum, into the belly, where all of the metastatic ovarian cancer lesions exist in most women, as opposed to delivering it directly into the vein. If you deliver these therapies into the vein, they go all throughout the body before they get to where they need to be, and they cause all sorts of side effects that are often intolerable and sometimes even cause death. So it's gratifying that we received the ability to go to much higher dosages. And frankly, if we go to these higher dosages and we're still having good safety results, including the efficacy that we've already seen, we may even apply to go to even higher dosages. So, we're looking forward to seeing all of this play out in the next few months.
Yeah, it'll be amazing that if you can sustain that sort of rate of improvement and even move towards curability for such a late stage disease, which is not a very good prognosis at the moment. Um, you mentioned lymphodepletion. You're introducing that that protocol now to these cohort, the latest cohort, which is the fifth cohort, and the successive cohorts. Can you actually just give us a one-on-one explanation of what lymphodepletion is, and then give us some insight into, you know, into how that sort of plays in these successive dosage cohorts?
Yeah, so lymphodepletion, well, first of all, stepping back, our immune systems consist of lots of different types of white blood cells, including T cells, that are functioning to prevent infections and other things that are potentially dangerous to us, including to some degree cancer. But those are native white blood cells. And when you take out T cells for this CAR T therapy and engineer them and then reinfuse them back into the body, what happens is that they compete with the existing T cells and other white blood cells to engraft, meaning, become a component of the immune system. And to some degree, they do, but the belief is, and the data shows in certain situations, that if you could eliminate the native immune system or suppress it dramatically, then when you introduce the new, better cancer-fighting T cells, then they have a much better chance of engrafting, more of them engraft, and they become much more potent in targeting the cancer. So for a patient that is not suffering from infections or other disease, other basically infectious diseases, if you can lymphodeplete, meaning you can suppress their existing immune cells by giving them some chemotherapy regimens ahead of infusing the engineered T cells, then the engineered T cells have a much better chance of functioning as we want them to. Now, lymphodepletion also creates some potential for other side effects, because for a period of time, the only immune cells in your body that are, really effective and potent are the cancer-fighting cells. So you have to be careful of not letting these patients get infections and things like that. So you have to be a little bit careful and you have to manage it. But if it allows you to destroy the cancer more effectively, it's worth it. And so that's what we're going to be doing in the next dosage cohort. Now, this process is utilized in all of the approved CAR T therapies for the hematological conditions, the B cell cancers. Um, it is necessary for those CAR T therapies, but it's not clear whether it's necessary for solid tumor CAR T therapies, because none of them have ever been approved yet. So, the US FDA, as well as us and our partner Moffitt, is interested scientifically in whether this improves the performance of our therapy, and we believe it will. It creates an extra step, and it creates a little bit more difficulty for the patient and care of the patient. But if it certainly is able to get to a curative treatment for for the ovarian cancer patient, it's definitely worth it. So lymphodepletion is a process that we're going to be studying going forward, and we have not done that yet. So that's a new component of this clinical trial that'll be very interesting to see. And the next patient is going to get that.
Yeah, got it. So you recently filed your first quarter fiscal year 2026 10Q, showing a debt-free balance sheet with around $14 million in cash and short-term investments. So how do you plan to allocate capital to support your key 2026 milestones, such as initiating the phase 2 breast cancer vaccine trial, which will require transition from a single-site study, as you mentioned, at the Cleveland Clinic, to a multi-site trial, significantly scaling up manufacturing and also advancing the Lira Cel phase 1 dose escalation study? And additionally, what are your expectations for cash burn this year?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I get asked that question all of the time. As many people know who followed our company, we have designed the business in a way that burns very little cash. And in fact, yesterday we had our annual shareholder meeting, and I'm not sure exactly when this podcast will be broadcast, but on March 10th, I should say, we had our annual shareholder meeting, and presented a comprehensive update on all of our products and projects, as well as cash burn. And if people have about half an hour, I encourage them to go and listen to the archived version of that presentation, in where I talk about how much cash we've burned. When we were a preclinical company, we were burning less than $5 million a year. As we moved into the clinic for both of these clinical trials, we started burning closer to $6 and around $7 million a year. Last fiscal year, we burned $7 million. roughly. And as we go forward, we'll burn this next 12 months, burn another $7 million. So we have plenty of cash. As far as allocation of the money, about 40 or 45% of that will be allocated to the breast cancer vaccine, a little bit, 25, 30 to the CAR T therapy, and then a remainder in overhead. So very, very efficient and frugal utilization of cash. And the good thing is that both of these clinical trials are producing very, very good results. And our plan going forward is to hopefully not to have to raise cash, but to establish partnerships with pharma companies that will help us complete the clinical trials as well as eventually commercialize these products with us getting a share of the revenue. As I noted earlier in this discussion, phase 2 studies are when things get very exciting for products like our vaccine. And the phase 1 studies for the CAR T are already showing indicators of efficacy, even though it's a small number of patients and we don't have statistical significance yet. It's quite impressive that we are extending the lives of these patients who would ordinarily, without our therapy, would have passed. So, 2026 is going to be a good year, both I expect financially, clinically, and scientifically for us.
That sounds pretty optimistic and very encouraging. Anyway, final question from me, and you mentioned partnerships, and in our prior discussions, you've been very candid about the goal of eventually licensing out these technologies to large pharmaceutical companies. So, given these encouraging but preliminary data seen so far, what is the specific data milestone, either in the Lira Cel dose escalation study or the transition to the phase 2 breast cancer vaccine trial, that you believe will serve as the primary catalyst for a major pharma partnership?
Well, we've had conversations with pharma companies before, and we've had inbound calls from pharma companies asking about the latest data in these trials. Both of these trials and both of these products are being tracked by a large number of pharma companies who are aware of them. That being said, in previous conversations, most of the companies, not all, but most of the companies have said these are very interesting products, but can we re-engage when you have more data? And excuse me. And now we have much more data. And in fact, at this stage in the clinical trials, we as a company have more data than we've ever had before. And I believe we are now at a stage where we can really earnestly engage in discussions. And as we go forward, we'll continue to be getting more data. And I believe that, assuming, fingers crossed, that the data continues to be positive, that will be the foundation for establishing one or more of these pharmaceutical alliances.
Well, thank you for all of that. And it really sounds like you're indeed in a real pivotal inflection point. So I wish you the best of luck for that. And thank you for keeping us apprised of all the latest, very interesting developments at Anixa. So I'm going to pass it back to Tim.
Thanks, Robert. And I will also mirror the comments Robert just made. So best wishes as everything unfolds. Sounds like a very dynamic year ahead. So thanks for your time and good to see you again.
Thank you. Thank you, Robert and Tim, for having me again.
Thank you for listening, and don't forget to subscribe, as well as visiting www.watertowerresearch.com to stay up to speed on the company's small cap written research reports, podcasts, fireside chats, industry-specific symposiums, and conference schedules. We will see you next time for another edition of the WTR Small Cap Spotlight podcast. Finally, a special thanks to the producer and editor of the podcast, Krista Fitzpatrick.